Hello everyone, after some time I took a bit of a break, got to visit with my brother and niece, and on that visit I got to see Superman a second time, get to see David Cornsweet and Nicholas Holt deck it out. And you know what, it got me thinking about my top 10 favorite Lex Luthors. Nicholas Holt gave a great performance and was one of the best Lex Luthors we've had on film in quite some time. So this will include animation, TV, and film, just my top 10 personal favorites. All the Lex Luthors have been great. Feel free down in the comments below to share your favorite Alexander Luthors. Here we go. Starting at 10 would be John Crier. It's kind of crazy seeing Lex's nephew from Quest for Peace become Lex himself in the Supergirl series. It was great seeing him go against Melissa Benoist and also bring a few references. Miss Taskmaster? Seeing his relationship with Lena Luthor, who was already established on the show. Crisis on Infinite Earths, how he was basically a master manipulator of controlling other Superman, including Brandon Routh. Great reference to Superman 3 there. All the way down to the armored suit. However, this Lex was a bit goofy. He wasn't as intimidating, even though he did bring mind over muscle. I just don't find him as intimidating or threatening as the other Lex Luthors on this list, and that's why he is lower. After that would be Jesse Eisenberg. To me, BVS had a Lex that was a bit more like the mad scientist of the early comics. If he was hopped up on cocaine and you mix Edward Nygma and Willy Wonka together, and that's what you get with Jesse Eisenberg's Lex. However, I did like the God complex. Parts of him reminded me a bit of the Dan Jurgens era Lex that was like the son of Lex, but it was really a clone. He transferred his consciousness to another body and had hair. And he was a bit more insufferable, you know. He has something in common with Nicholas Holt about them being younger and just kind of like tech bros that just hate Superman for no apparent reason, but just them being better than they are. They can't stand that. And I love seeing Lex in this version be a master manipulator as far as setting up events to frame Superman, setting up Batman to go after him, setting up different things with the UN. He's just manipulating all these chess pieces. He is 5 steps ahead of everyone. And that's one thing I really love, more particularly the Ultimate Edition of the film, where we get to see Lex's plan unfold in real time. I also like the banter, the little that we got as Superman telling him is like, you've lost. And it's like, I don't know how to lose. And it's like, you'll learn. And I was like, I don't hate the sinner. I hate the sin, and yours, my friend, is existing. This Lex also figured out Superman's secret identity of Clark Kent. The Granny's peach tea scene is just morbid and just disgusting, and there's just something about Lex is getting more and more screwed up with each incarnation we've been moving forward. He's just becoming more twisted in a way. And then at the end, we get to see him as the Lex Luthor from the comic, finally, with the bald head. And it would have been interesting to see the original plans, had they made him, if it was just like the plans that they were setting up. I think we missed out on a really cool Lex that would have gone back to the Super Friends era, but a bit darker. That being said, though, like John Crier, Jesse Eisenberg's not among the strongest on the list, but he surprised me, because on paper, I was like, the Mark Zuckerberg guy and Zombieland guy is going to play Lex? It worked for me. It wasn't the best Lex, but it was something different, and I respect it for that. Next up at number 8 is Titus Welliver from Titans. Titus Welliver would have been higher if they gave him more than one episode. He knocked it out of the park for just having one episode. Lex, again, like John Crier, continues a trend of a beard, but in this version, Lex is dying, and he makes a deal with the Blood Cult, with Mother Mayhem, to basically live forever, but he knew they were dangerous, so he had a contingency plan. His contingency was to make a clone of Superman and transfer his consciousness into this clone, or at least have a legacy to carry on. And he makes a deal with Connor Kent, Superboy, to continue LexCorp. We get to see a bit of a father-son relationship and a relationship of a Lex who has regret in his life. Instead of trying to like be better than Superman, he realized I could be Superman, but he realized that too late. And it was crazy seeing his death at the hands of Mother Mayhem. That snake scene was just so gross, but for the limited time he was given, he was a cold and calculative Lex, even down to when Starfire and Nightwing try to ambush him and he already knows and sends ninjas to fight Nightwing. That was just like so cool. Knew his secret identity, knew his connection to Bruce Wayne. Like, Lex is that person where a lot of the younger actors who play Lex, I don't mind younger Lexes, but they, with the exception of Michael Rosenbomb, they're not as intimidating. They feel like they're trying to act like the smartest man in the room, where the older actors, they are the smartest man in the room. There's an air of confidence about them that I like, and Titus Welliver presents that in his limited appearance. Next up at number 7 is Kevin Spacy. This is a wonderful Lex Luthor, and he, like Titus Welliver, didn't really get much to do. Perfect casting, but he's pretty much a rehash of Gene Hackman as far as wanting real estate, wanting land. Again, like Hackman before and Nicholas Holt after, he invades the fortress and he steals the crystals inside Superman's Fortress of Solitude, and he uses that to create land masses. He gets off, Superman returns after 5 years. So that's great, seeing his relationship with Catherine, Kat, who's kind of like his Mercy, I guess, or Miss Tessmacher. I like his relationship with Parker Posey's Kat. The beginning was messed up. He slept with an older woman and like got her inheritance to get rich. Like, that is screwed up. Also, Noel Neill, original Lois Lane. Yeah, he was a great Lex in not only the film, but the video game as well. They go more into detail what he did to get off and get out of prison. From Superman 2 to Superman Returns, in the video game, he sent false evidence that remnants of Krypton existed, so that's how he got Superman away. So I thought that was kind of cool. I love the limited banner they have. It was like, do you like what I've done with the place? It's like, all I see is an old man sick joke, and I just love it when he's talking about the lands, like, kryptonite. And him and his goons beating up Superman and him just stabbing kryptonite in his back saying, now fly. It's just some pretty cold-blooded stuff all the way to the end when him and Kat are trapped in an island. He's thinking of eating her dog. Like, it's just some crazy stuff. But Kevin Spacy is a wonderful actor, and it's just sad that he didn't get much to do with Lex Luthor, you know? Like, that's just perfect casting, and it was just in the weird retro futuristic. It was like 40s Superman, but in modern 2000s. So if he got some of the other material before and after, I think we would have saw a really, really awesome Lex Luthor. But as a rehash of Hackman, he's not the worst, but he's not the best he could have been. After that would be Michael Cutlets. This Lex is just the most menacing Lex I've ever seen in live action with Superman and Lois. Because in this one, he went to prison for 17 years for a crime he didn't commit. Lois and Clark thought he committed those crimes. You find out Bruno Mannheim and his wife did. They killed Boss Moxie. They took over Energang in Metropolis. So Lex was sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit. That being said, this Lex is far from innocent, and when he comes out of prison, he is gunning after Lois, Clark, and Superman, and he figures it out. And it's crazy because not only have you ever seen Lex threaten Superman this way, or Lois and Clark, but this Superman is an older Superman who's a father and he has 2 teenage sons. So Superman now has a family that is being targeted by Lex Luthor. And he is so damn menacing here with a beard, heavy metal listening Lex Luthor, creating Doomsday out of Bizarro from another world. And I just love that final fight with Blow Up the Outside World by Soundgarden, but like he has Doomsday rip Superman's heart out, and he's keeping his heart, and when Jordan tries to get it, he basically destroys the heart right in front of him. This Lex gives 0 Fs. He wants to be reunited with his daughter, and through a long set of circumstances, Journal Lane dies, and they use his heart to bring back Superman, but he's weakened since he has a human heart. He's not 100%. And even after that, Clark tries to help Lex let go of the past. They reunite him with his daughter, and he can't let go of vengeance. That is sad. He has just one goal, and that is to kill Superman and destroy anyone he loves. And he lets go of happiness for that. Seeing him try to buy out Smallville and then ultimately stealing John Henry Irons' suit and getting the battle armor. That whole last confrontation is just awesome. The last great battle Superman had in this incarnation. He's like, he came after my wife, my family, my town, but all that ends right now. Seeing his origin in prison, how he got beat up by the inmates but then started blackmailing people and using another inmate as a chair. I love that confrontation with him and Bruno Mannheim, and then all the way to Superman's death and that, and the whole forgiveness scene. It's a very tragic character, but this Lex is probably the most menacing in my opinion. In the top 5, we now have Nicholas Holt. Nicholas Holt rocked this role. I love what he did with Lex Luthor here, especially in the first half of the movie with the whole Pentagon deal, him having the Raptors planetary force, and just ultimately his hatred of Superman, him twisting the public's eye against Superman, using evidence, again, like Rosenbomb, Spacy, and Hackman before him. He breaks into the Fortress of Solitude, steals a message. You find out Jor-El and Laura-El wanted Kal-El to conquer Earth and make a harem, so he uses that against him and turns the public against Superman. And after years of planning, he makes a clone of Superman, kind of like Gene Hackman with Nuclear Man, and he studies Superman's movements. He goes after him after studying. This Lex is intelligent. He even created pocket universes. The Russian roulette scene was just downright brutal. This Lex is the ultimate hater. The ending, that confrontation before Krypto gets him, is such a great Lex and Superman scene right there. I wanted more of that. But at times, he does appear a little bit too much of a hater and almost whiny and just like, I don't know, something about the young Lexes, like I said, don't appear as intimidating to me. Like, they lack something that the older actors have. I guess, I don't know if it's life experience or just the writing. Maybe it's the writing. That lacks something, because even like Michael Rosenbomb had that presence, even though he was a younger Lex compared to some of the other actors we've seen before. But I really love what Nicholas Holt did. I like to see if they're going to get him out of Belle Reve and have him help Superman and Supergirl against Brainiac, or I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I want to see the battle armor. I want to see President Lex. They had a good foundation here. It's going to be interesting to see how they explore Lex Luthor, because I think he's going to have a pivotal role in this new universe going forward. And I can't wait to see more of Nicholas Holt. After that would be John Shay from Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. John Shay, I feel, is underrated. Lex has all this money, and John Shay figured out a way to cure his baldness. He has hair, but he's also, like the other brilliant Lexes, a puppet master, a master manipulator. Oh man, so much he does with the city to go after Superman and ultimately gain Lois Lane's heart. In this one, Lois Lane almost marries Lex Luthor. It's a pivotal story of season 1 of the show. All the way down to returning appearances when you think he died. They brought him back, but then it caused him to go bald, and he was that comic accurate Lex Luthor trying to win Lois's heart back and then making the ultimate sacrifice by the end. I love John Shay's portrayal. Ending of the pilot has a wonderful first confrontation between Superman and Lex of like, I know it's you, Lex. Nothing will give me more satisfaction than the day when you're dethroned and behind bars. And John Shay just tells Dean Cain, Superman's like, well, until then, let the games begin. And they mirrored that in the Tim Daly show as well. I just love that. This era of Superman was heavily inspired by the John Byrne comics, you could tell, while putting his own romantic comedy spin on it. But I like seeing this more vulnerable Lex, yet still just as threatening and still just as intelligent. This was a very underrated Lex Luthor on TV. After that would be Clancy Brown, probably the best Lex Luthor, whether it's in the Tim Daly show, whether it's in the Justice League Unlimited spin-offs, whether it's in Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, or his other numerous appearances. He has the voice, the demeanor of Lex Luthor. Threatening, physically, mentally. This Lex just has it all. The businessman type of Lex. No mad scientist, but a businessman who is highly intelligent and lethal. And he is Superman's greatest enemy. And this is a perfect personification I've seen of Alexander Luthor. Seriously. All the way down to the beginning of like Lex's public image, seeing Mercy there in a correct way, seeing how he threatens Tim Daly's Superman, but then ultimately getting caught and then forming the Legion of Doom later on. And then having to side with the Justice League, work with Superman to stop Darkseid from destroying Earth, and then finding the anti-life equation in the Justice League Unlimited ending. What a great arc. All the way down to the other movies where he's like president and setting up Superman and having the entire DC universe basically hunt down Batman as Superman. I love that, seeing the mental effects of taking kryptonite. Even the episode where him and another Lex Luthor, Michael Rosenbomb, switch places and you get to see Flash's Lex and Lex's Flash, his voice of the Flash was just so funny. Overall, whether it's comedic or serious, Clancy Brown portrayed all avenues of Lex Luthor, and he's just one of the best, if not the best. For my second favorite is Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville, the most vulnerable, relatable Lex, who actually did not start off as Superman's greatest enemy, but as his best friend. You got to see an arc of best friends turned enemies, and it was tragic. You got to see the abusive past, the relationship with his father, and how that damaged Lex mentally, and ultimately drove him to become what you know he's going to become as Superman's greatest enemy. Seeing the revelation of him having a sister with Tess Mercer, being locked up and lobotomized by your own father, finding out what happened with his younger brother, his mom dying at a young age, him losing his hair during the meteor shower when Superman arrived, but then him getting a higher white blood cell count, which shows you why he's never sick and he's highly intelligent. I love seeing the adventures they go on. Lex and his high school friends, so to speak, but like Superman and Lex. And he's not Superman yet, and you get to see how they go into being enemies, how he steals Lana from Clark, how she leaves him, and how ultimately everything going on with Lex and the power he obtains, he thinks he's going to have it all, and he doesn't. He loses it all. He's alone. And it ultimately shows you not only the powers in the God complex, but he's jealous of Clark because of the life he has, the family he has, people who love him. He has everything that Lex does not. And that's what creates the drive of Lex becoming the ultimate villain against Superman. I love that confrontation in the fortress in season 7, all the way to his return in the finale. And he's like, I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'll always be there to stop you, always. And Lex is like, I'm counting on it. Lex losing his memories. But then there's something deeply hidden beneath his psyche, and we get to see him explore that in season 11, because as we all know, you can never forget. And what I love about this Lex is you got to see the experiences of his life and what turned him into the Lex Luthor we know from the other incarnations and the comics. And Michael Rosenbaum is just the best Lex Luthor of the 21st century. My favorite, though, still is from the 20th century, and that is Gene Hackman. I know he wasn't 100% like the comics, but you can see a bridge between the mad scientist Lex and the businessman Lex that you see in the John Byrne comics, starting with this incarnation of Lex Luthor. Who could forget Ned Beatty with him as Otis? Mr. Luthor, the Miss Testmarker! He brought so much gravitas to this film as Lex Luthor, took it seriously, but like I said earlier, with some of the younger actors, they feel like they're trying to act like they're the smartest men in the room, where on Gene Hackman, I actually believed he was the smartest man in the room. He was purely Lex Luthor. He had the confidence, the mental skill, the planning, everything, the wigs, just everything about Lex Luthor. It can be kind of campy by today's standards, but I loved it, and he was still a brutal, cold Lex Luthor. There's a wonderful scene where Superman confronts him, and it's like, is that how a warped brain of yours gets kicks? By planning the deaths of innocent people, Luthor? He's like, no, by causing the deaths of innocent people. Just like a cold delivery. All the way down to him figuring out Superman's super hearing and using like a dog frequency, a low frequency, to like get his attention. The traps there, if you watch the special edition version, all the way to the end. Him nuking the San Andreas Fault to get more land, you know? It's always a land scheme with Lex. I just loved it. All the way down to Superman 2 with him figuring out Superman's Fortress of Solitude location, finding out about Zod, teaming up with him, and then all the way to him getting out with his nephew and making a clone of Superman with Nuclear Man. I love Lex Luthor, and Gene Hackman is just my favorite. You know, some people can read War and Peace and come away thinking it's a simple adventure story. Others can read the ingredients of a chewing gum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe. And that's how I feel about Gene Hackman's Lex. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know your favorite Lex Luthors out there down in the comments below. Share your favorite Lexes. In the meantime, you can check out these other Superman videos for more content. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Till next time, he is the villain of the story.